Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Event Industry News Podcast. My name is James Dickson, wishing everybody a very good morning, afternoon, or evening to all of our podcast followers, whenever or wherever you may be tuning into today's episode from. The podcast is brought to you by our sponsor, Engage, powered by D2I Systems, winner of Best Event Management Platform at the 2017 Event Technology Awards. To learn how Engage can make your business more profitable, visit d2isystems.com/engage. Hello to everybody on today's episode of the podcast, and hello to our guests. On today's podcast, we're going to be talking about Inbound, a unique event, not simply a tech user conference. It's a festival, it's an experience, it's growing rapidly, and we've got two of the key players involved in that event to talk to us on today's podcast about what it is and why it was created. First of all, let's welcome Laura Moran. Laura is the content and talent manager for Inbound. Laura, thanks for joining us today.
Hi there, thanks for having me.
Not a problem at all. And also Kim Darling, the events senior director. Kim, welcome along to the podcast.
Thanks, really excited.
Let me just ask you, first of all, both where you're joining us from. You're in, are you in different locations or you're together in the same office? Whereabouts are you today?
So we are in Boston, Massachusetts, and I'm at home right now in Boston. Our office is in Cambridge, so we do both work out of the same office.
Fantastic.
So yeah, it's before work hours right now.
I do love it when we go transatlantic with the podcast and we welcome people, and it shows just what a broad and wide and international industry that we work in. So thank you both for taking the time to not just join us today, but to do it in the very, very early hours of your working day. So as I said at the start of the introductions there, we're going to be talking about Inbound, and rather than me explaining it, I think what we should first of all is throw it over to one of you guys, Kim or Laura, who wants to just tell us first of all a little bit about what the event is, how it was created, and where it was born out of.
Yeah, sure. This is Kim. I can take that. So Inbound is an event, as you said. It's really meant to be about this industry. It's not supposed to be self-serving or about us. It's really about how do we provide just a meeting place and a really amazing experience. So as everyone's in a good mood and sort of open to this conversation of what is the next 12 months of the sort of Inbound way of doing business, which is essentially just a very positive, helpful, optimistic, aspirational way of interacting in a business environment, that you're consultative with your customers or your prospective customers, that you're helpful, that you try and add some value before you extract it, that you're growing in a really positive way. And it's not just about like the next dollar or the next pound or euro or whatever. It's really about doing that in a way that you feel that is respectful and honorable, and that your customers actually want to do business with you.
Sure.
So Inbound itself as an event started in 2012, and we were 2,800 registrants back then, and we just got done with the 2018 event, which was a couple of weeks ago, and we had just over 24,000 people registered. So we've had significant growth, and we're really proud of it. And it's one of those metrics where we look to, hey, people actually do want to learn this. They do care about this. There is an appetite from their customers because they're seeing that it works. Otherwise, we wouldn't be growing. And that's just really, really important, that it is a proof point to this way of doing business. And where Inbound all started is Laura and I both work for HubSpot, which is an amazing software platform company who really thinks about this way of doing business. And it started with inbound marketing and pulling people in terms of visitors via your blog or your content marketing to your site and your social media presence. And then it's really grown, and HubSpot is about so much more than that now. And HubSpot is just very unique. And I think when you talk about Inbound and the event and HubSpot's philosophy for Inbound, it really does speak to that remarkableness of the company, that Inbound is not necessarily about HubSpot. We do have our two co-founders, Brian Halligan and Dharmesh Shah, do a big keynote at the event, and they've really worked very hard to make that keynote not just about HubSpot. Of course, they use references and examples of their own experience of running and scaling this amazing company, but they really work hard to have that as a future vision for the tech industry, a future vision for people in small to medium-sized businesses and how you grow better. And that is really, really amazing that, you know, under their leadership, under the company sort of notion of doing business in this grow better, remarkable way, that we've created space to allow an event which is not about ourselves to live and breathe and grow. And we run Inbound as a separate brand that is very complementary to HubSpot's brand. And it's something that HubSpot hosts the event, and we're very proud of that, but it really is very separate, and it really is not about HubSpot.
And just to welcome Laura, just looking at the figures that Kim mentioned there, 2012 to 2018, that's 6 years, but looking at the broad visitor numbers, that's 10 times bigger than the original show. So that's massive growth. I'm just curious about the spectrum of visitors, how that has changed in terms of the job titles and the type of people that are actually coming to the show. Has that diversified significantly from the first year in 2012, or is it just the same type of professionals, but just a larger number of them that are coming?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. It has definitely diversified. I think if you look back to the first Inbound, it was very much a marketing event and very much full of marketers and content geared almost exclusively to marketers.
Mm-hmm.
And that is still very much at the core of Inbound. We still have tons of marketers that come to the event and look forward to it each year, but over the years that has definitely expanded to reach out into people in sales positions and customer service positions and HR positions and front office, functions that really benefit from this idea of thinking about doing business in a more inbound way. Our content has matched that. This past year, the way that our breakout sessions were tracked was basically by those same exact functions. We had an entire track for marketing content, an entire track for sales content, an entire track for customer service content. So yeah, to answer your question simply, we've definitely seen that audience of people expand over the years while still sort of retaining that core excited marketing base. Been there since day one.
And I would guess, first of all, I'm going to guess that you've got international visitors, that this is, even though this is a US event, it's not just people from the US who are coming to this. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, we have attendees. I believe this year the number was from over 101 countries. So it's,
wow.
The core, the majority of people definitely come from the US, but we certainly have representation from all over the world, which we're super proud of and excited to see more and more people come from different corners of the globe each year.
As a question to both of you, certainly in the UK, we have a lot of small business operators, and there are a number of representative organisations that represent small businesses. And when we look at small businesses, as opposed to sort of major corporations or bigger organisations that maybe have specific people to do specific jobs when it comes to sales or marketing or communications. Small businesses often run by one person or a couple of people who take responsibility for all of those different things. So do you have representation from those sort of smaller business owners who are coming to learn about how they can actually improve their businesses by being able to learn all of these different facets? And are there particular strands of the event that are geared towards those type of people that may not be so specific to one particular job but want to learn a bit about everything?
Yeah, I mean, small business is, sort of to go back to what Kim was saying about where some of the relationships between HubSpot and Inbound do come in. HubSpot is very much a software platform that is designed for small, medium-sized businesses. Mm-hmm. And I think in a similar way, we tend to see a lot of Inbound attendees come from that same SMB space. And we have lots of them that join us. There are also people, from the enterprise world or from larger agencies and things like that do attend Inbound and get great value out of it. But a lot of people are coming from small, medium-sized businesses. We see a lot of entrepreneurs. We see a lot of startups. And then, I think really where the sweet spot is for a lot of this is also people that are looking to grow their businesses. Mm-hmm. So we see a lot of people that come maybe as a startup or an entrepreneur thinking about starting a business or having just started a business, but who is looking to grow that and scale that over time and learn what that looks like throughout. So we have a lot of content that is very much geared towards that, which is, okay, your business was or is at this place. How do you take it to the next level, and then the next level, and then the next level? That is very much across all of the content tracks, down in the breakout level where things are really deep in the weeds weeds and very, tactical and what can I learn and take away, all the way up to the spotlights and the keynotes, which are much broader reaching in terms of the type of content that's presented on the stages, but the takeaways that come out of them and the types of people that we choose to have come join us at the event and talk to our attendees are really, driving home a message of, this is how you can think about growing better. This is how you can grow better. This is how you can think holistically about the work that you're doing, and how one choice or one approach or one philosophy can create impact across your entire business.
Sure. Kim, one thing I'm curious about, given the amount of visitors that you've got, I would guess that you've probably got people coming to your event who in day-to-day business life could be competing against each other, and that yet they're choosing to come into your event to essentially drop their guard and be able to learn new ideas and new philosophies and techniques and processes that could help them. Do you find that people are coming in with a very, very sort of open-minded approach to this? And has it taken a while, if that's the case, to actually get people into that open-minded approach, that they do need to maybe just drop their guard a little bit, even though there may be other companies and businesses in the same room as them that work in the same industries and will be deploying the same techniques?
Yeah, I think even from the get-go, that, sort of like competitiveness hasn't been an issue for us. It really hasn't. And I think that speaks to this notion of doing business in an inbound way is open. It is about sharing. It is about consulting with each other. It is about helping each other sort of move up. And in terms of like fierce competitiveness, we really don't see that play out in any type of negative or ugly way. I think we're just very lucky that the tone of the event is set as, hey, you will do better if you like share, if you are open to sharing what you learn, if you're educational about what you're doing that's working, because people will see you as a thought leader. And that's been a huge advantage that, certainly there might be small things that come up here or there, but by and large, the event feels very positive. It feels very optimistic. It doesn't feel like I need to be protectionist. I need to be defensive. I need to be wary. It is more idealistic, and I think it's a good proof point for, hey, yeah, we all live in the real world. We all have bills. We all have things that are going on. We all need to be careful, but there is a way for us to coexist, and there is a way for an ecosystem to just call it what it is. We all operate in this space, and no one's going to do themselves any favors by, nobody wants to do business with someone that's like negative and toxic and sort of disrespectful. I think people are just, they're over it. They're very wary of that kind of behavior.
On the subject of behavior, I suppose, and a more an overall sort of holistic approach to all of this, I noticed that on your 2018 agenda, you had Deepak Chopra come and deliver a session. Is that correct?
That is.
That is, I mean, first of all, that appears to be a pretty big coup in order to be able to get somebody like Deepak onto the agenda. And what was the thought process behind getting somebody with his background into this particular event, and how it would tie in with the overall message of the event?
Yeah, I mean, I think, if you look at a lot of our keynote and spotlight speakers in particular, you might sort of say, hey, I wonder what that has to do with a business event. And I think something what we strive for every year is to go out and look and say, like, who is doing interesting things, impactful things, talking about issues that matter to us as human beings. And, we're all still human beings at work. Therefore, those same issues come into play when you step into the office just as much as they do when you step out of it back to your personal life. And, a lot of these things are, they're not personal issues. They're not social issues. They're not, anything other than, life issues, and work life and personal life are all one and the same. And so someone like Deepak, coming in and talking very much about mindfulness and being present, and what like health and wellness in your physical human body means to bringing a, healthy, aware, and high functioning person to work every day. That's what we really wanted to get at and say, like, this stuff is important too. He gave our opening keynote for the week, and it was really about setting a tone and a for no pun intended, setting some mindfulness for the week, to go into all of the other, fantastic content that people were going to see. With the right mindset. So we definitely think outside the box when it comes to our keynotes, and that's something that we're really proud of every year. And he's just one example of many that I think you could go down the list and say, like, that's interesting. Let's talk about why you chose to have that person at Inbound this year. And I love that about our event.
And I was going to say, back in September, and depending on when this particular episode of the podcast is published and broadcast, in the UK, we had Event Wellbeing Week 2018, which ran a week commencing 17th of September. And it was run by an organization called EventWell, who are raising the issue of well-being within the events industry, and so that event professionals can take better care of themselves and the people that they work with. And I guess when we reflect that on what you were just saying about that particular keynote that was delivered at Inbound, is that sometimes it's not necessarily the techniques and the processes and the way that we're working that has to change and improve. Sometimes we actually just have to improve ourselves a little bit in order to be better productive with the processes that we're already using.
I think that's exactly right. Yes. And I think that spans across many, many, many different topic areas of, from things like how everyone is thinking about diversity and inclusion and what that means. And then, how that type of behavior and thinking about those sorts of topics in a really open way makes for a better workplace, makes for a better business, makes for a better, more successful business, to something like mindfulness and wellness, to something like I'm trying to think of another area, but there are these bigger, more broad-reaching themes that we see in like society that we live in, that are super important to think about in the context of what that means for you as an employee, but also what that means for like a better functioning business. And that's what we're really trying to help people do at the end of the day. And we think that there are huge ways to do that by making yourself a quote unquote better person at the same time.
Sure. When it comes to the actual content itself, we've spoken about, how some of the keynotes are sourced and these major sort of presentations and sessions that are delivered as part of the content. But when you have so many people from so many different backgrounds under one roof, presumably who are all there with a real eagerness to learn and find out about how they can develop their businesses and their practices and the way that they work, how much of the content is geared around getting the attendees together in order to share their own experiences and their own practices, and how is that balanced against actually putting them all in a room to listen to a keynote presentation?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the event is 3.5 days, and over the course of that 3.5 days, we have just over 300 content sessions for people to attend. Some of those are keynotes and spotlights, which are big, large rooms, where people are sitting and very much listening. About 250 or, closer to actually 300 of those are breakout sessions, which vary in size and vary in format. And like I said earlier, get much deeper into the weeds of the tactics of what people are doing. The breakout sessions all leave time for Q&A and conversation between the speaker on stage and the audience themselves. And so there's definitely engagement there. And then throughout the course of the week, and just to add on to that too, this year we added in some additional types of content that people could engage with on that breakout level. Things like an AMA stage where speakers were up on stage strictly with the purpose of answering questions. And depending on who that was, some of those sessions took different formats, which became very conversational, almost like workshopy amongst the people in the room. We had podcasts being recorded live that people could come in and listen to and sit as the live audience for those. We have the inbound studio where people can come be in more of an intimate setting with some of our keynote and spotlight speakers and listen to them speak in a more conversational way. So there's certainly different formats for people. And then all throughout the event, woven into everything that we have set up, is an opportunity for networking and engagement. We have lots of different areas throughout the event that are conducive to networking, in where we encourage people to meet with each other and talk, and maybe even, you know, God forbid, skip a session and go chat with each other. You know, that's something that we like to see happen, although a lot of our attendees are really excited about getting to every session that they can. But there are different areas throughout the whole week that really lend themselves to making sure that people are able to interact with each other and gain value out of that as much as they do out of listening to speakers.
Excellent. On today's podcast, we're talking to Laura Moran and Kim Darling from Inbound. And Kim, if I could just fire a question at you, sort of more on the operations side of things. Again, going back to some of the numbers that you quoted at the start of today's episode of the podcast, you had 2,800 visitors in 2012 in the first incarnation of the event. Presumably, you've had to move venues, or have you always been able to deliver the event in the same venue but scale it up? How has that worked from a growth point of view and operationally, you know, coping with those sort of numbers now compared to how it was when you first started?
So I think on that topic, yes, we have had to move venues, and then subsequently we've expanded to additional 2 venues. So we are located in Boston, which, you know, HubSpot was founded in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and we're very proud to be a Massachusetts-based company. So that, again, is the bridge between HubSpot and Inbound in that way. And Inbound has always been in Boston. There is no intention to move it to another city. And I think if you have an annual event that is growing at the pace of ours, the thing that is most important is your partnerships with the city, we have a really strong partnership with the Massachusetts Convention Authority, and, you know, with the Convention and Visitors Bureau and all of the hotels, because like we had 23 hotels that we also had people stay at that we managed in our housing block this year. We have the BCEC, which is our main venue. We have the Westin Hotel, and we have the Aloft, which came online this year, as well as some outdoor space that we bring in food trucks, for example, at lunch, and we do some interesting things there. I think to answer your question of like, how do we scale on the operations side, it's been a mixture of both external and internal scale. So when I talk about external, it took us a while to get the cadence of who are the right partners at the table that can grow and scale with us at this pace, because there's a lot of really good vendors and partners out there who are, you know, niche in certain areas and bring certain skill sets to the table that you need as specialized, experienced sort of human beings to complement what your internal team has, that you would never have on full-time staff year-round.
Sure. And
for example, we have, you know, a really strong production partner that helps us produce our main stage stuff. And given the level of speakers that we've had everyone from Michelle Obama, which comes with Secret Service, to Deepak that we just talked about, to, Scott Harrison was there this year as the CEO and founder of Charity Water, who has a lot of beautiful imagery and video stuff. We've had the creative director from Refinery 29, who, you know, this is really about the experience. So that crew comes with like a lighting director who goes on tour with everyone from Iron Maiden to Beyonce. And we have our stage manager whose normal day job is working on the Jimmy Kimmel show in LA. And, you know, we bring in those specialist partners who are able to up level our experience and complement our own internal team. In similar veins to that, we have Club Inbound, which is our main sort of experiential space, which is also where our sponsors live. And we don't do a traditional show floor where it's rows of booths, you know, 20 by 20 or whatnot.
Yeah.
We do, like I said, Club Inbound, which is this giant hall in the convention center. And we have this, you know, many different installations, which range from the heaviest structure to ever be hung in that building. So we have to bring in the architects and, planners and all this fun stuff to get approval, which is essentially a giant centerpiece with 80 mirrored boxes in the center and these incredibly beautiful but heavy curved screens on the outside that make it sort of looks like a flower, kind of like growing outwards. It's hard to describe, but check it out online.
I was going to say,
There's
if
all of
anybody
that
wants to
stuff.
see what the ladies are talking about, I think inbound.com is the website address, and I'm on there at the moment as we're recording today's episode, and these images are on there. There's loads of stuff on there. So sorry to cut across you, but I think, yeah, definitely people should go over to the website and have a look at what you're talking about here.
Yeah, and I think as well as that sort of external view, there's the internal view. And one of the things that, we've done and worked really hard on, I'd say in the last 2 years, is really up-leveling our own team. When I started working on Inbound back in 2014, we were already close to a 10,000 person event, and we had 2 people working on the team. So that was crazy. And, we now have grown the team to around 20. And what we really have done is we've looked at Inbound as a mini business, and across my team, I sort of look at it as 3 key functions. So one, which is incredibly important, is Laura's team, which looks at talent and content and all of those, 300 plus, breakout and main stage talent and speakers, and how that sort of translates both the learning and the inspiration. Then we have what I call the operations team, who really deal with all of the logistics, and that team is very core project managers. I actually have this rule that I don't hire people that come from traditional conference or event background, because we really want folks that will complement those partners and that experience. Because what we found is if we have a project management discipline across the team, it really provides that framework to grow and scale. We try not to get bogged down with this is how everybody else does it. This is what it's done, but this is how it's done before. This is where I've come from, and like this is the only parameters in which we can work. We really need to be free and think and push outside the box. And then we look at other events for inspiration along the way as well. The third pillar on my team is sort of a collection of niche skill sets. So for example, we have someone who runs our tech stack. We have the sponsorship team who work with anyone who's want to maybe buy like not a traditional booth, but an exhibit space within our Club Inbound area, to really custom activations. We had ASICs who did like a fitness studio on site this year. Right. So in terms of your question of did we move buildings, I would say that was the least of it. Yeah. We've really grown and scaled the event in every way that you can think of. We've tried to think outside the box and say, all right, this is not just about another venue. Like to Laura's point, we added an Ask Me Anything session in a new venue to make that something special and unique and identified by itself, rather than, it's just drag the spreadsheet and do something more. We added podcast lounge in another venue, the Inbound studio that Laura can talk at length about, which is her team really runs and manages this online video show year round. That was a huge part of our expansion, where we really wanted to create a fear of missing out brand, where we were extending our brand around the year and having those interviews.
Sure. And just having had a chance to talk to you, but also to look through the website and try and get a feel as much as you can from something like that for any given event. This seems to me something that is creating a real social experience for people who are visiting. Dare I say it, a lot of people visit stuff that is business related, and a business conference or a business trade show, what a convention, whatever it may be, and it's a formality. It's something that their boss has told them that they've got to go along to, and essentially it's part of work. I get the impression and the distinct feel that this is very much something that people are really looking for and are counting down the days before it starts, because they want to come for the experience of being there as much as they want to come to learn about it. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, I think that's that's our goal, certainly. And I think that, that's what we see and that's what we hear from our attendees. So absolutely, we are, everything that we do, every decision that we make throughout the year, whether it's something about content, something about logistics, something about sponsorship, something about, it doesn't matter. Every decision we make is how does it contribute to the experience of being with us for 3.5 days. And that is always our goal and always how we're thinking about attendees coming. And so yes, to a resounding yes to your question. I think it's much more than a stereotypical business event, for sure.
Absolutely. We are getting close on time today, but I'm keen to ask you, given the growth of the event since it started in 2012 and the numbers that we've discussed earlier on in the episode, have there been targets set as to where and how you would like to grow the event from a quantity point of view? Have you got capacity to increase visitors within the existing venues, or will you start to have to look for additional spaces or elsewhere?
Yeah, so last year we went through a 5-year planning exercise as a team, and that is something that's really important. I think is hopefully your listeners will understand. When you grow and scale an event, especially when there's so many moving pieces involved, you have to have a long range planning attitude. It's just creates absolute chaos if you are only on an annual planning cycle with the size and scale of where we are now and where our ambition is. And so we really thought about, all right, where do we want to be in 2023? What is the team that is needed to support that kind of growth? What are the skill sets that we're missing? How do we want to build that? What are the partners that we might need to bring on? Where are our blind spots? What do we want to learn? So that was really, really important for us. And it's challenging to do, inside of any company, I would say, to force your leadership to have conversations which are 5 years out. When we as a company at HubSpot, I think we're 12 or 13 years old now. And so that's like, just a little bit less than half our life as a company. So it's hard, and resources don't scale in the physical world the way they do in a software world, which is the environment in which we operate on a day-to-day basis inside of HubSpot.
Sure.
So we needed to force the issue and have those conversations. We have big growth plans. I'm not going to share what those numbers specifically are, but we're very, very excited. We're not slowing down, and we've identified all of the sort of new buildings that we need. And, that is really going to be not just about us as an effort. That really will start to involve the city a lot more. And that's conversations that we're having with not just, the government and city, but also private developers, because we're actually in the seaport area of Boston, which if you ever visit Boston, I encourage you to take a walk down there. The amount of buildings going up and buildings coming down and being redone is just a new thing every day. And it's really, really awesome. So it's just really important for us to have those relationships and know what's going on and keep that inside track so as we can expand. And so as we do understand what space is available to us, and we don't want to just drag the spreadsheet. As each additional space comes online, we want to think about what is unique about that, what makes that a destination. And we set sort of rough goals for ourselves as a team that each new building that comes online should be ideally no more than a 5 to 7 minute walk. So earlier this year, we as a team did an exercise where we kind of just timed ourselves walking to different parts of the seaport just to see, because we have Google Maps, but there's new things coming online and new ways to walk around that space.
Absolutely. And certainly on behalf of everybody over here and the podcast, we wish you every success with it. It's an event that's grown massively. And our guests today on the podcast, as we bring things to an end today, have been Laura Moran and Kim Darling from Inbound. If you want to find out more, I think I'm right in saying that it's inbound.com, isn't it, is the website to go to?
Correct.
Yes.
Absolutely. And social media tags, I presume you guys are on Twitter and on Facebook and on LinkedIn. If people search on those various social media platforms, no doubt they'll be able to find content from this year's event and about the forthcoming event next year.
Yeah, if you go to @inbound on Twitter and Instagram, you can definitely find us there. And on Facebook, we're at the Inbound Studio. So please come check us out.
Well, thanks very much, guys, for taking the time. As I said at the start of the podcast, both Laura and Kim are joining us from the other side of the big pond at the moment. So they've got up very early today to join this episode of the podcast and get it recorded. We're early afternoon here in the UK, so we should thank them both for the time and use this opportunity to actually put out our own social media handles. If you want to follow what Event Industry News is up to, on Twitter is @eventnewsblog, and you can hop onto Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, search for Event Industry News, and you'll be able to find the various feeds that are going out there. Eventindustrynews.com is the website. If you are listening to the audio version of today's podcast, hop over to eventindustrynews.com, and you'll be able to see video versions and clips from previous episodes of the podcast. And probably worth mentioning at this point as a little recap to something that we did back in September. Week commencing 17th of September in the UK was Event Wellbeing Week 2018, organised by Eventwell. It was an initiative and a week of activities and events that were raising the profile and the issue of well-being within the event industry and among event professionals, and all sorts of ideas and opportunities and ways that event professionals can look after themselves and the people that they're working with to make the whole experience of working within our industry that little bit better for everybody. Thanks again to our guests today. And today's podcast was brought to you by our sponsor, Engage, powered by D2I Systems, winner of Best Event Management Platform at the 2017 Event Technology Awards. To learn how Engage can make your business more profitable, visit d2isystems.com/engage. That's it for today's episode. Thanks again to our guests, Laura and Kim from Inbound, and we'll see you on the next episode of the podcast. Thanks very much, everybody. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.